Hey folks, it's Phoebe with Shrub Step Blooms. This is just a quick update check on how seedlings are doing. So since I last showed this to folks, I started a bunch of snapdragons. So we've got 3 trays of these. They're just at a stage where I think they're gonna start putting on true leaves in a little bit here. But otherwise they're looking all right. We've got a whole tray of herbs down here. So there's some parsley, celery, lemongrass didn't germinate super well, interestingly. There's a couple types of anisacet back here. There's a white variety and a purpley variety, and then down here I think is like oregano and stuff. So we've got oregano down towards the end. I didn't really love how the lisianthus were doing in those really short small trays, like the style of tray. I realized I probably shouldn't have started them in here in this type of tray because it is very shallow and they have to sit there for like 3 or 4 months growing. And I'm sure people who have more experience doing this would do just fine with these, but I was not really liking the way they're progressing, so I ended up potting them up into these bigger trays because they will produce really deep roots if you give them the space to do so. So I went from 3 trays with like 200 and something lisianthus per tray to 6 trays, and that's taken up quite a bit of space up here. There's balloon flower back there. The pink variety, not doing great. There's lady's mantle in these 2 squares. They have some sort of germination requirement that I don't think I'm meeting, but they are coming up, and if I get like 10 or 12 plants, that'll be plenty. And then down here we have a couple kinds of veronica. So there's a sightseer mix up here, which is a mix of like purple, pink, white, or blue, pink, white rather. And then down here we've got, it's just called blue shades, I think. It's a different species of veronica. So we've got that. And then I'm trying to grow Culver's root, which is much larger, but it's like a relative, I think, of veronica's too. So there's a few little seedlings in there, and there's some of these where this is a perennial. I don't know that doing it in a tiny seed block was what was the best choice, but it's kind of what space I have to work with. So we're just going right along. Back there we've got some petunias. There's 3 of those blocks of mountain mint. These little guys right here are sedums, so I'm very curious to see what we get out of that. There's some rue in here. This is valerian, and then a different type of oregano, kirigami, a really ornamental variety of oregano. The foxglove looks atrocious, but they're still alive. Some of these I need to start fertilizing, so I fertilized for the first time last weekend. With this type of soil mix, there's really not a lot of nutrients in it, so once true leaves begin to develop, you have to start fertilizing it, otherwise they just turn sickly, sad, and yellow. This is a whole tray of stock. I've got another one like this. This is, I think it's a mix of mixes. So there's anytime mix, column mix, cats mix, and then quartet, apricot, or rainbow, or somebody down there at the end. There's more of those lisianthus. I just finished popping those up today. This one takes the award for the worst looking tray by far. So those are Icelandic poppies. Doubt that they wanted to be started like that. And then we've got pansies down here, which look fine. It just looks sad because there's one variety that just didn't come up at all. But that happens. I need to just remember to throw that seed out because it just did nothing. Down here we've got dianthus. They're looking a little stressed out, so it's another sign to me that I need to be fertilizing more because they're turning purple and not necessarily going to be purple leaved plants. So some of it too is they will eventually lose those seed leaves anyway, regardless of what you do, but they don't look super great. But I will say, with a couple of years of experience, you can have plants that look like this and look kind of sad and, you know, unhappy, and then once you get it planted out and they have a chance to adjust, they do just fine. So I'm not too concerned about it, but I do need to start hardening them off in another week or so. We've got a whole tray of eucalyptus, and these are looking really good in my opinion. This is only the 2nd year I've grown them, so I don't have a lot of experience, but we've got the variety, the lemon bush type variety. There's one called Silver Dollar over here. I've got all my little sticky traps out because you can see I have fungus gnats regardless of my attempt to use mosquito bits in the starting mix. And then we've got, what is this one? Silver Plate. And then the really standard, oft-used baby blue bouquet eucalyptus. Over here we've got delphiniums, and then this whole tray, the rest of this tray is all columbine. They germinated pretty erratically, so I ended up kind of moving stuff around and filling in any empty cells so that there'd be something growing in every cell. I think of this type of tray, these are from Never Sink Tools. I think this like 128 size is one of my favorite. The ones with the 72 cells and 50 cells are also really nice, but I'm just holding out on using those until I need to start my peppers and stuff. Got a whole nother tray of delphinium. What I'm gonna do with like 150 delphinium, I don't know, but I have them now. Here's my other tray of stock. Weirdly enough, this variety, I think it's another quartet variety, was really delayed compared to all the rest of them, but the rest of them are doing fine. I will say with these lights, you do get some stretching, so like these are all cabbages and kale and that kind of stuff, and they are a bit leggy. They're leggier than I would like, and that does happen with these lights, especially if the lights are like not super close to the seedlings or to the seeds when they're germinating. But in my experience, it's all kind of worked out anyway, even if they are a bit leggy, so it's okay. It'll be okay. We've got some chard here in the foreground, and then back in here we've got feverfew coming right along. They're looking nice. The part of the tray that's still covered back there has Fama scabiosa mix, so it was like 50 seeds of a mixed bag that I just planted to see what would happen. And here we've got some gaillardia, perennial gaillardia that's coming up already, and then back behind it, I don't know if you can quite see the green popping up, but I planted more of that anise hyssop because I think it'll be, I keep hearing it's a good green filler in addition to using the flowers, so I'm looking forward to experimenting with that. And then in here we've got this tray, and this tray is mostly Rudbeckia. They're mostly germinating. There's a few things that aren't quite there yet, so I'm leaving the saran wrap on until more stuff comes up. In this corner over here, this is not Rudbeckia, and it's come up really, really quickly and well. Let me check my notes real quick. Handy dandy little clipboard here. So I have this list of notes to keep track of what I planted and when I planted it and when it came up, and or if it didn't come up, because then I know I need to throw the seeds away. So we're in tray 14, and that is Winged Everlasting. So that's already up and looking really nice, and I'm glad about that. They're moving right along. I started these seeds last weekend, so they're not, they haven't been sitting all that long. Here we've got a big magical tray of statice, except for whatever that variety is, it's not liking it, so I think it might be a yellow. I would need to check my notes again, but it's not about it. And then this tray is a mix of other stuff. Let me get a better vantage point. So there is some statice in this one, and then largely it's strawflower, and that like pink poker statice is that variety right there. And then over here we've got those other paper daisies, not strawflowers, but the actual paper daisies. So there's pink and white of those. And then over here we've got a whole another tray of strawflowers. So really looking forward to all of those coming up and being great. I think that's mostly what's going on in here. Oh, down here, down, we've got food crops. We've got a bunch of onions and shallots, and there's artichokes, a bunch more onions and shallots, and then we've got our friends, the lisianthus, that I've been working on potting up. And then this year, there's sweet potatoes in there that I'm sprouting, yay. This year I'm going to try taking dahlia cuttings, because why not? I saved all my tubers from last year that I could, that looked good and didn't look diseased and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm pretty sure I like really just massacred them when I divided them. I think I divided them too soon. So there's a few varieties where I want to make sure that I have a good number of options, and if I end up with too many, I can just give them away to some of my friends who are interested in dahlias too. But I'm going to try to take cuttings this year. I've never done it before, but there's a lot of resources like on YouTube and the internet to use if you're interested in learning how to do that. But basically my understanding is, so there's little tubers buried in each of these pots, and it would be fantastic if it focused. There we go. So On all of these, I tried to pick ones that had really obvious eyes, which are like the little growth points that you can see that will send up new shoots this year. And then once those shoots do come up, you can pop them off and then just put them into a sterile mix to root. So I have no idea if this is going to work for me. I'm not always as on top of it with some of the stuff as I could be, so we'll find out. We'll see how it goes, and then it'll be good. And either way, it'll be an interesting experiment to see how that goes. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I am on the cusp of starting all our hot peppers next week or so. Probably all of the peppers, but especially the hot peppers and eggplant, that they just seem to take quite a long time, and I'm gonna need to clear some of the space up because I need to use those heating mats to germinate those, because they do like to have way warmer temperatures than all these cool season crops do when they germinate. I'm really excited about all these snapdragons. It's gonna be so gorgeous. I have way more than last year, and I'm really excited about it because snapdragons just, they're so wonderful. I'm also growing a few extra for my friend's wedding, so there's also that. I'm kind of stressing a little bit more about making sure I actually have everything growing that I need to for her. But I think it's gonna be great. And we'll also go out and check what it looks like in the tunnel, the greenhouse thing, in a second here too. One more thing that I am looking forward to doing this year, and I have no idea if it'll work, is setting up like a little hedgerow of willows, and largely they'll be used for ornamental purposes, like these varieties here, Mount Osso, Rabbit's Foot, and Winter Glory, all develop those really like big beautiful catkins in the early spring, late winter, that you can use in arrangements and that kind of stuff. And because I think that someday I'll have time, energy, and everything like that to do basketry work that I've never done before and I don't know how to do currently, I bought 2 varieties for basketry called America and Bleu, looks like. And so these are from Willamette Willows, which is in Oregon, which is really not that far from us geographically, all things considered. This is not what they recommended doing, just to be very clear. This is not something they said, hey, this is a good idea. This is because I put my delivery date a month earlier than I should have when I ordered them, and the ground is fully frozen. There's snow on the ground. It's just not feasible really for me to go plant these in a way that I think they'll actually survive. So I'm just trying to kind of treat these as, you know, cut and stick and put them in the bags that they came in so they maintain their label. And I'm gonna leave them down here in the basement, I think, just to keep them cooler and not, in the past I've kept cuttings in warmer spots and the buds forced really early before the roots developed. So it tends to be a little cooler down here, a little darker. Kept them in the bags to maintain humidity. I might put another bag across the top just to maintain humidity a little bit more, but also need to be able to keep it somewhat vented so they don't mold. But I'm really excited about this. I hope it works. Even if only half of these take, I will have a good little patch of willows in the future, so I'm really looking forward to that. And you can even see that there's some little catkins on these, but not that that's what we're going for right now, but it's nice to see them already. But yeah, so that's my big plan for having a willow patch in the future someday. So here's the greenhouse tunnel. Mostly the trays are still pretty barren looking and they're dried out a little bit on top because of the cold. But there's nice ice on the plastic that's been covering them. But there are a few outliers. So there are some of these plants are incredibly cold hardy. A lot of them are cold tolerant or need some sort of stratification. But in this tray we have hundreds of tiny Godetia popping up. So I bought several different colors, again for my friend's wedding. A little bit was my justification, because they'll be blooming right at the right time for her. And this is a 100 cell tray, but I always overseed with this type of stuff. Particularly, it's been quite cold. It's been down to like 10 degrees overnight the last few nights, or colder. So it's been pretty chilly in here, and these are still alive. They sprouted before it got that cold, but they're still just kicking along. Let's see if we can see the chamomile in here. So chamomile is another one that's really, really cold hardy. I saw seedlings of it survive 0-degree temperatures out in the garden last year, so these will probably be just fine. And then of course we've got our bachelor buttons, which care not one bit that it was cold. They're coming up just fine, and they'll be fine. But otherwise everything's pretty much just waiting in here, hanging out. I have started, or put more seeds in trays since the last time we were in here, but everything's just kind of waiting for it to get warmer. I bet in the next few weeks it'll start to turn. And then in here I did end up, before it got really cold, I went and I picked a few cuttings. So there's some oh geez, now I have to remember, golden currant and Philadelphus mock orange, I think is primarily what's in here. And then I did a few cultivars of like edible currants. Golden currant is edible, but like, cultivars you're gonna find at the farm store or whatever. But yeah, that's what it looks like in here. I don't have anything to start in here until March, so I've got a few more weeks, or anything more to start in here until March. So I've got a couple weeks until there's more to be done in here, and mostly I've not been out here because it's just been cold and there's not a lot to be doing.